here it is, the movie we've all been waiting for. After 3 movies, we finally get the clash that people have been waiting for literally decades, because the last time they did this was in the 60s. But now, in this MonsterVerse, we can finally see these two titans clashing each other. Full disclosure, and this is no spoiling of the movie, I'm just giving my thoughts on when this movie came out. I put my money on Kong. I'm being serious. I would rather put my money on a monkey than a lizard.
Kong bows to no one.
Godzilla vs. Kong is directed this time around by Wingard, with a screenplay by Pearson and Max Borenstein, and a story by Tyree, Rossio, Michael Doughtery, and Zach Shields. The film has a star-studded cast, some returning and some newcomers coming into the fray, including Alexander Skarsgård, Millie Bobby Brown, Rebecca Hall, Brian Tyree Henry, Shun Oguri, Eiza Gonźalez, Julian, Dennison, Lance Reddick, Kyle Chandler, and Demián Bichir. According to IMDb's plot synopsis, the epic next chapter in the cinematic MonsterVerse pits two of the greatest icons in motion picture history against each other, the fearsome Godzilla and the mighty Kong, with humanity caught in the balance. After King of the Monsters, I was hoping that this series would bring it back to what the first 2 films were, or if we could just at least get out of this mess that, for me, King of the Monsters left, hopefully we can get somewhere. When this film was released, and this is the weird thing about this movie, is that, of course, this movie had to release during the middle of a pandemic, which we all know it was a hard time to get through, and we were getting entertainment at home rather than in the theater. And for me, as somebody who loves going to the movies, it was very tough to be a moviegoer. It was. Unfortunately, I never got to see this movie in the theater, which stinks. But nevertheless, I still watched it. And I really enjoyed it the first time I saw it. I was watching it with some friends of mine while we were watching it, and we were actually having a blast. And after rewatching it, I still think this is a lot of fun. I still think this is a very exciting entry in this MonsterVerse. Definitely better than, in my opinion, King of the Monsters in every way. As much as it is an improvement, I'm not saying it's perfect, alright? Far from it. But we're stepping in the right direction. So before addressing some of the issues, here are now some of the positives that I found. The performances are fun. I could say for once, the performances that I think are enjoyable on the level of Kong Skull Island, where I kind of prefer those characters a little bit more than these, but regardless, I still think that they are, on par with each other a little bit. But Alexander Skarsgård is entertaining as Dr. Nathan Lind, a monarch geologist who leads an expedition with Kong. Skarsgård plays Lind as a charming and selfish person who only cares about gaining the glory. I think this is the best way I can describe him, because Skarsgård is a talented actor. Him and his family are just gifted actors themselves. So anytime they're in a movie, I'm hoping at the very least they could always be an entertainment factor to it. And he is. He is very much a fun presence, I would say. And just seeing him acting like an asshole, I feel like, for half of the movie is just kind of funny, because they were describing this character as not really being like the macho, action hero. He really isn't. He's kind of a wimp. So yeah, it was great to see Skarsgård's kind of play something that was a little bit against him, at the very least for something I've seen him in, so that was at least nice to see. Though not a huge improvement, I do think that Millie Bobby Brown has more to do and is fun this time around with Madison. I think that the last movie, she just was given nothing, and all she did was just mosey along, was sad and angry, and that's about it. So this time around, there seems to be more energy to her when it comes to her contribution to the film and involvement with the story than she did with the first film. There were moments where she was in King of the Monsters, but not a whole lot. Compared to the other characters, not a whole lot. Rebecca Hall is delightful as Dr. Eileen Andrews, a monarch anthropological linguistic. Even though her character can be pretty much like an exposition-heavy kind of character, she does have some enjoyable moments, especially with her adopted daughter, which I actually thought that was, I think, kind of the best part of the movie is with the adopted daughter. I think that her connection to Kong, as you see in the film, works pretty well, and I think that they have a good rapport with each other, and it brings kind of like the heart out of Kong. It makes the audiences kind of care and be a little bit more sympathetic towards somebody like Kong. Both Skarsgård and Hall have great chemistry with each other. They banter back and forth with some nice humor between the two. They take a little bit of jabs at each other, especially when the daughter gets involved. Like, you could tell that they clearly had a blast with like insulting each other or thinking that they're the smartest one in the room. So it was nice to see both Hall and Skarsgård just have that great banter with each other. Brian Tyree Henry is hilarious as Bernie Hayes, a Apex cybernetics technician turned conspiracy theorist and whistleblower. Henry plays Bernie as a crazy and twitchy technician that makes you believe him to be a crazy conspiracy theorist. The way he acts in this movie, he just completely goes into like conspiracy theorist mode, and I think Brian Tyree Henry seems to have a lot of fun playing this type of character. He's just there to be comedic relief, and I do think that he does add a bit of charm to the movie with regards to the comedy side of things and how his interactions are with both Millie Bobby Brown and, speaking of which, Julian Dennison is also funny as Josh Valentine, a friend of Madison who accompanies her with Bernie. Like Henry, Dennison plays Josh as a nerdy and relatable teenager that makes for some laugh. Dennison is one of those actors that I hope I could see more of in films, because I do think that he is one of those actors that can make an audience laugh. I mean, I've seen this kid in both Hunt for the Wilder People. That was my first introduction of him. Actually, no. It was actually Deadpool 2 and then Hunt for the Wilder People. But regardless, this kid really knows how to bring a lot of laughter to a role, and so to see him here still kind of bring that same wit and banter that you saw in those movies, it's brought here. It works really nicely. Both Brown, Henry, and Dennison have great rapport with each other, which makes for a fun trio to watch. Their storyline, as much as there is a problem there, I could say that they are the best aspect of that, because they do have great rapport with one another, and it makes for a fun time to see these three just working alongside each other to uncover something. The direction is solid. Director Adam Wingard fuses a Saturday morning cartoon vibe, which includes entertaining set pieces and chaotic monster fights. Wingard brings his energy throughout. It's almost like Adam Wingard just was watching Saturday morning cartoons and said, I want to make that. I want it to be like that. Because this is the type of vibe I got while watching this movie. The way characters interact with each other, to how the monsters interact as well with their fights. I mean, it really goes for like a full-on Saturday morning cartoon. And I think that's the best part about it. And I think for a movie like this, you would want that. And there's nothing better than seeing like spaceships going through Hollow Earth, and then you seeing Kong wielding a big axe and trying to like fight Godzilla with it. It's like, this is dumb. What it's like on the level of like, it's still enjoyable though. It's still nice to watch something that knows what it is. The action sequences are exciting. Every monster fight between Godzilla and Kong are fun whenever they interact with each other. Definitely a huge highlight of the film. I'm glad that they are, because if they weren't, that would be the biggest disappointment, is to see these two titans, these two legendary titans that people have been waiting to see fight again, and just advancements in filmmaking for both. It really shows how much that Adam Wingard wanted to make sure that yes, this is their movie, and I'm glad it is, because when they have their fights, man, ooh, it's a lot of fun. Especially that end fight. That end fight is good. But there is also one fight involving, both the Titans on a battleship, which I thought that was kind of cool, and I thought that was kind of interesting to see that fight be shown, and it was a lot of fun. The cinematography is stellar. Cinematographer Ben Pearson makes for a gorgeous and thrilling film that makes sure that the fights look spectacular. Also, Warren Shearer, take some notes. This is what I mean why I was so frustrated with Godzilla King of the Monsters, was because everything was so shot close together. It was so hard to make me want to see the scale, the scope of everything. And I'm glad that Ben Pearson made sure that when these fights go down, you see the whole thing. There's some close-ups, but it's not that much. It's not like 90% of the shots. Everything is from a wide angle to a medium angle, which is good, because if it had been all the close-ups, I would have been pissed off. So thankfully, it looks well, but also the fights are all visible, all big. I like that. The visuals are incredible. Both Godzilla and Kong look amazing, especially since they are constantly like moving and fighting. The way Kong just jumps through places, especially when they get to Hollow Earth. Like, to see this guy move and how the visual effects artists managed to make sure that everything still looks amazing, even when he's constantly moving, it looks incredible. It's great to see these effects still be consistent, and I mean it. I'm surprised that we're only like 4 movies deep, and yet they are consistently still making sure that the visual effects are still looking as good as they can be for these creatures, because if they weren't, that would be a big problem. Thankfully, they still look amazing, especially Kong. I think Kong looks incredible. The music is enjoyable. Composer Tom Holkenborg makes a thrilling and fun score that captures the feeling of these titans. It adds to the enjoyment. Tom Holkenborg is a composer that I have heard his music before, and I've always enjoyed them, and he gets it right here. He really, it's almost like him and Adam Wingard knew what they were creating, they knew what they were making, and thankfully they were able to capture the feeling of what this series can be, but also make it to where you know that this is not supposed to be taken seriously. It is meant to be fun, it is meant to be just enjoyable, and that was the best part about it, is that at least the score itself, Holkenborg just knows when to let everything loose with regards to its music and how to ramp things up. Pacing and runtime is perfect. Scenes don't feel dragged out due to a tight pace that keeps it consistent throughout, which, thank God, because that was a big problem I had with Godzilla King of the Monsters, was that pacing and runtime were a huge issue. With a runtime of 1 hour and 53 minutes, it's best that it doesn't go over 2 hours, because we've seen that in the last movie. I don't like it. Thankfully, it is under to almost about 2 hours, because if it had gone over past 2 hours, I would have been like, alright, you're overstaying. There's no need for this. Thankfully, Anne Wingard knew how long to keep the scenes going and what the runtime should be, and be like, alright, we're done. Under 2 hours or close to 2 hours, that's it. We're out of here. Which is great, because if it had gone any longer, it would have been stale. Though the film improves from the previous film, I do think that there are still some areas where it does fall short in, so now let's hit some of the negatives. The characters are still lacking depth. In this series, I don't think that, I'm not asking for amazing characters, although I got that in Monarch, but I mean, I'm at least looking for some characters that I can at least kind of, like, love, or at the very least, like, get behind. And while everyone's performing it well, I mean, guys, like, each character just feels like a generic template. Sure, yes, Skarsgård, talented actor. Love him. He is, though, just playing kind of the selfish asshole. I mean, let's face it. I mean, yeah, he'll turn around, but, like, I mean, that's just kind of what we usually see in movies nowadays, but it's not doing anything, like, new with it. It just is like, alright, yeah, they're just doing that. You know, Eileen Andrews, you know, as much as I like Rebecca Hall in here, she's just, you know, the exposition-heavy character who just knows everything about Kong. That's all there is to them. But this really definitely goes to the villains. The villains in this film are some of the most generic, cookie-cutter, cartoonish villains, and while I understand that that's what the movie is going for, at the same time, when they come up as just generic and not as, like, over-the-top fun, that's a problem with me, and one in which I was hoping that they would just go for more over the top rather than just still trying to be, like, serious with it. The Apex subplot just feels underwhelming. Though it kicks off the plot, I do think that the Apex company just feels underdeveloped, that it doesn't go anything beyond just being an evil company. I mean, it's a little bit explored more in the Monarch show, but because this was their first appearance, there's nothing to them. They're just, you know, they're just a opposite Monarch. You know, they're all about technology advancements, and they want to find a way to fight these titans. And that's all there is to them. I mean, it was very obvious from the beginning that they were easily the villains, you guys. That's not a spoiler. I mean, that's just really what they are. Alright? I just don't understand why there wasn't anything much to them. There is an inclusion of a legend monster, I should say, that feels kind of tacked on. Now, spoilers for this part, but then again, this movie's been out for only 3 years, so, but regardless, here's your spoiler moment. Mechagodzilla. As much as I like the fight, as much as I think it's kind of cool to see Godzilla and Kong fighting Mechagodzilla, I also just feel like it was kind of pointless. And here's what I mean. It just feels like something that's in here for the Titans to fight, because, of course, at the end of the movie, you know, after the dust is settled between Godzilla and Kong, it's like, alright, how do we show that we're at least, like, mutual, or at the very least, like, we're cool with each other? Let's just fight something that'll attack humans. So, alright, we're gonna fight Mechagodzilla. And, like I said, it's fun, but I just feel like they rushed that too, because that was at the end of the previous movie of what they were doing with that King Ghidorah head that you saw in a post-credit scene. And it just feels like they just were quickly just trying to rush that plot to just get Mechagodzilla out there. So, fun, but unnecessary to me. The film is a blast that both Godzilla and Kong fans can all enjoy. It lives up to its name, having the Titans go head-to-head with each other. The end results are a success. I'm at least happy that, at the very least, it's better than that last one. Yeah, I'm giving Godzilla vs. Kong a 7 out of 10. I think it's a huge up for me. And if I had to say which one I would prefer, I kind of prefer Godzilla 2014, but I still think that this is a fun, enjoyable time if you want to watch these two go at each other. So I will now finally give my review for Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire. So yes, look forward to those reviews and other movie TV show reviews coming soon.